Right. This situation has a history, and Matt Barron has filed another complaint of dogs, at least one, roaming onto his property and exhibiting uh, barking, and intimidating behavior. And there have been many communications to the keeper of the dog that there are two dogs, of the need to keep the dogs confined and also to keep them registered. He did get them registered, but they are obviously not continually confined. We did confirm, or I did confirm today, that the keeper, Travis Manning, is now informed of the hearing. It was not, the certified mail notice went out on Wednesday, and a follow-up a copy went out by regular mail, just in case the certified mail didn't get picked up, to try to ensure that he was aware of this hearing. He was called this afternoon to let him know that the hearing is being held. So I don't know if he's planning to participate.
So where should we go from here? What information do you guys want, or additional information do you guys need? Val does have some video, right, Val?
I do. Yeah.
If you guys would like to see that. Any questions for Matt from anybody? Hey, Matt, I do have a quick question for you, though. Does the dogs, are they good for like a while and then all of a sudden they become like not watched and they're out in your yard?
The dogs were real bad and on my property several times a day, up until I think Chief Nason had a conversation with Travis after the last select board hearing where I brought this up.
Right.
So it was good, and then it was actually really good, and now I'm starting to see the dogs again. So I figure if I, don't take action and report it, the problem could get really bad again. So,
okay.
So here we are. And I think the last select board meeting, we had like some kind of order to have the dogs impounded.
We did. If he didn't, we did have that in place if he didn't register the dogs.
Okay, that's right.
And he went and registered the dogs, so.
Right.
That's right.
And he was ordered to confine them, but at the time the registration was the partly the larger issue that really needed to be dealt with, as well as the confinement, but we had more control over the registration.
Matt, does he have a fenced yard?
No.
Oh, so when he lets them out, they're free to roam.
Correct.
So I'll share the screen.
Matt, how long has it been since the last issue? Because the last issue was a little while ago. Has there been anything? Have there been any incidents in between those, or has it been a while and now there's a new incidents that are happening?
New incidents are starting to happen over the last few weeks.
Okay.
But also, I'm only here in the evening. I don't know what goes on during the daytime. But yeah, I see his golden dog was in my backyard, running around my backyard a couple months ago.
Okay.
The latest incident I just sent a videotape in was the black dog was just like, I opened up my front door and the dog was like right there and started barking, and I told the dog to go home, and then the dog walked down my walkway, still barking at me, but listened to me at least. So.
Okay, let's see how this goes.
Go home. Go home.
Okay, that's the first one.
That's the second one actually.
Oh.
That's the dog in my driveway barking at me while I was taking out the trash. The first one is the incident I just described.
Okay, hang on.
Go home. So that video was captured at my front door.
And is that the Manning household next door?
Yes. Looking at the video straight back where those lights are is Travis's house.
That's across the street, right?
We not across the street. It's
Okay.
the next property over.
Okay. Yeah, select board. Any more questions for Matt that he can enlighten, or?
I'm curious to know, Matt, I know that they bark. Do you feel threatened by them when they bark? I mean,
I
Cancel,
have
get
and
that?
I do. I have and I do. Like, for example, I'd be working in the front yard over the summer, and I'll just turn around, the dog will be there barking at me, and it's just it gets a little startling, and I'm kind of sick of dealing with those kinds of interruptions. Or I'll be in my garage.
Sure.
And both dogs are barking at me from my driveway. That was a pretty common occurrence, especially over the summer.
Sure. So it's a nuisance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One incident I reported when I first reported this incident a couple years ago. My son was 4 at the time, and the black dog pulled him down by his shirt. And I reported that, and I wrote that up. So, I just don't know what the dog's capable of. And if the dog, my concern is that if the dog isn't contained, anything could happen.
Right. I understand that for sure.
So how do we get him to contain the dog?
Well, in other instances, from either what I've found in records or in recent years, the keepers of the dogs have been ordered to either put leads on them or fence the yards or put some sort of invisible fencing.
And that's what I was thinking, that, I mean, we've done that not too long ago.
And with limited success.
Right. But if he doesn't put up the fence, then what do we do? Take the dogs and tell him he has to give them up?
And then we have the situation where these are legitimate reports of roaming at large. So is there a consequence from that anyway? Because the ordinance provides for fining.
Fine, right.
Right.
Okay, select board, thoughts?
Matt, how far is it from your front door to his house, approximately in feet?
Oh gosh. I'm poor at estimating these kinds of things, but I would estimate from my garage to his property, you asked, or my front door?
Your front door to his, where we saw those lights. They look like
I want to say like anywhere between like 100 to 150 feet.
okay.
I mean, I guess I want to understand more in terms of the town, the options that we have as a town, as well as what the police department is able to do. I know that they've been called and looked and spoken with the owner in the past. I was just reading the letter last September. So what are our options, Val, as far as you know? I know that we've asked him to sort of register the dogs, which that ended up happening. But what are the options that we have available to us?
Well, we've in the past have required between bark collars to fencing to
Right.
berms to, whatever. We can make those requirements. I mean, Bruce went and talked to him because at that point we had an order for them to either register the dogs or they had to get
Right.
the dogs out. That's why Bruce went to talk to them.
Which eventually happened, correct? The dogs did become registered.
Right. But we
Okay.
also told them to keep them contained.
Right.
Many times.
Okay. I mean, so it's repeat offenses that obviously adds to our ability to hopefully act on this if we needed to. But I don't know, is it in terms of our ordinance and, in terms of obviously, I mean, electronic collars only do so much, and given the distances there, it might be tough, to sort of lay that around, looking at that video just briefly. But I mean, putting in a fence as well, you're fencing your property and there's not a tremendous amount of space in between those properties. I don't know.
The select board does have some rather broad authority
Okay.
to weigh the facts and the risks.
May I interrupt?
Sure,
To
go
say
ahead.
we're planning on actually putting up some fencing. I'm waiting to get the property surveyed, so I don't think it'll be all encompassing, but we are, probably going to be doing that in the spring.
Matt, are you doing that because of the dogs, or you would do that anyway, regardless of?
A combination of the two.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not really his responsibility to fence his property to keep
Yeah.
somebody else's dogs out when we have an ordinance that says they'll either be leashed or in their owner's control.
And that wouldn't keep them out of the driveway, probably.
Right.
Right.
Beat me to that, Peeker. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, and the fact is, this is a repeat offense. So
Right.
I think we have to take that into consideration when we think about this. My inclination would be to make I don't know, is it a recommendation, a request, order? I don't know what the wording is, but to create fencing, have the owner create fencing for the dogs and levy a fine. I don't think we're at a point where that's unreasonable.
I mean, and to me, the fencing it doesn't need to be their fenced property, but they could have, a dog kennel, a fence,
Right.
Attic
Fence
area.
area.
to keep the dogs in, because he's not doing a good job with it.
Well, we're going to put a nice fence up there where our two properties meet along this driveway line. So
But that won't keep them out because
Yeah.
that won't keep them out. No, but it might help.
Yeah, but I'm just saying your driveway's not going to be fenced in. They can come up that way.
Right.
True.
And again, the responsibility isn't on you, it's on the dog owner.
Yeah.
But I fully understand why you'd want to do that, Matt. I mean, you're taking responsibility into your own hands, which is good. But I think this, the responsibility is on the owner.
I think a fine's in order, and then something like you said, Darla, to the effect that he will contain his dogs, and I mean, I don't know if we keep finding if we keep having offenses and until it gets to the point where it hurts enough so that he either does something about it or we have to take the dogs.
And the fines are graduated, right, Val? First, second, third offense.
Right. Let me do a quick share.
We didn't find last time. We just recommended, right?
No, he was fined.
He was fine. Did he pay it?
Bruce handled that. I think he did.
Yes, he paid all fines. He registered the dogs and he paid the fines associated.
Okay.
I think on one of the dogs that when we had complaints, you at one point got to, you came up with something that after X number of times, if we picked the dog up, we were going to keep it. So I don't know if you have something,
Vaguely remember
this
that.
one saying, there's terms that, obviously it's a repeat offender. Although it's been a little while, if he's going to start, if there's going to start from the nuisance again, we've got to set some limit as to how many more times we're going to say enough.
Mhm.
And if we do come into possession of the dogs, that we have the ability to hold them.
Hold them and he gives them up, you mean? Like we hold them and he's giving up his rights to them?
Or pursue something like that, because
Yeah.
we do that with, I want to say the dog's name was Bo, that if
Yeah.
Right.
pick dog, if we
Correct.
pick him up, then he was not going to be returned.
Right.
So I have to do research on that.
Have we ever picked these dogs up, Bruce?
Once, and
Once.
one of them. But we've been there a few times. It's like in the beginning when Matt had a few complaints, we were out there frequently. We just couldn't catch them.
Mhm.
Well, it's obviously, every time we send Bruce out there, it's a cost to the taxpayers that we should be reimbursed for at the very least.
Mhm. No, maybe that's part of the fine.
Trying to, I can't get my thing to pop up here. Okay. So this is the section on penalties, the fines. So this is at least the third violation, might qualify as the fourth and subsequent. So it'd be 75. And then the question is, do we also apply it to the November complaint? So that could be doubled there. Then if he waives, if he goes for the waiver, it would be reduced. But the other relief, in addition to the enforcement procedures available through the traffic court, Town of Bristol may pursue any remedy authorized by law, including without limitation the maintenance of a civil action in Superior Court. But the other remedies by law are the impoundment and fine and other conditions that you can choose to order.
How would the board feel if we made a motion to fenced-in yard on the subject's property, not Matt's, but the subject's property, to contain the dogs at all times, will be constructed and completed by, I'm going to pick a date of maybe May 15th. We will, if not, we'll go right to the fourth violation, because the third violation is right now. And maybe if it's done and completed and to Bruce's satisfaction, I mean, Bruce is going to have to go check it by May 15th. It's all up and nice gate. It's not just a piece of paper across there to hold the dogs in, that we could not levy the $50, the third violation. But if he doesn't have it by May 15th, the third violation will be reinstated. And then that will become the fourth violation because he hasn't done what we asked him to do. What's the thoughts of that?
I mean, I think the fence and I don't know that we can say we have to say fence in your property, but they need to have a fence.
Fenced in yard. I didn't mean, yeah. Whether he wants to do a 10 by 10 or a 20 by 20, whatever. I don't know how much land he has.
Yeah,
But someplace to
Containment area.
contain the dog.
yeah, containment area. Good choice, speaker.
That's why I'm so quiet. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Is this really the third offense or is this the fourth offense now?
Well, we'd have to look back at the correspondence. Because he did pay fines last year. So,
Yeah, right. Does that reset the offense order?
right, or is the third and fourth offense the third and fourth offense, no matter how many times he's paid previously?
Right.
I think that's true because it's the same
Yeah.
dog. I mean, if it was a
I think
different
so.
dog,
Should be cumulative.
then, right.
Yeah,
Right.
just because you pay a fine doesn't mean the offense goes away.
Right, doesn't reset, like you said.
So I would say, let's figure out what offense it is and go, determine the fine based on that.
Yeah.
How does everybody else feel about the rest of Joel's motion?
Would we levy a fine at this time, or would we wait to see if the fence gets, so there'd be a fine and a letter?
I
Right.
think it's fine.
I'd rather, work with a homeowner. And if he says, if that's up by May 15th, we don't collect that third fine of $50. But if it's not up by the 15th, that one is enforced. And I guess the fourth one would be. The third one is today.
Right.
And we will not collect it if it's up by May 15th. That one is late in the rear, so to speak, and the fourth one would be.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I agree. I think that's a good way to go, but I'm also thinking of it as I just got a quote for a fence on my property and it was $7,000 to do my little corner here. So I'm just wondering what kind of
Incentive.
Well, I mean, what if the homeowner just can't afford that? Can't afford something right now. How can we support what we're asking, and how can is there someplace we can point him to for assistance? I'm wondering, is that our job? Maybe I'm overthinking this.
That's not our job, first of all, I don't believe. I mean,
Okay.
second of all, he does have 2 dogs. He knows
Oh, agreed.
responsibilities. So
I agree.
his only other option would be he leashes them all the time.
Yeah.
Or puts them on a run. I mean, that's not,
Right.
Right.
Joel, can you repeat your motion, please? It didn't sound like a motion to me, so I guess
Right.
I was
Well,
asking,
yeah.
really wasn't until I got throw it out there and see if it sticks to the wall, so to speak, and see what the board.
Right.
Make a motion that we direct the violator to erect a containment area. I like Peter's word, containment area. So if that is a run,
Hmm.
not a fence, so be it. But a containment area on his property, so they can't contain and go on to the other property with a run.
Yeah.
Containment area by May 15th. And the third violation effective today will null and void. If not by May 15th, the fourth and subsequent violation would be a fine.
I wouldn't say null and void. I would just say the fine would not be
Levied.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Because it would still be a violation. I should
Right.
say.
Right.
Basically, we're helping him with $50 to put towards the containment area.
Whatever. Yeah.
Gets it up.
so what happens with subsequent violations between now and the 15th, Bill?
I was going to ask that, and Jen asked that as well.
Yeah, I'd hope he'd keep him in, but if he doesn't, then we continue right down. We keep finding him, we're taking him. Bruce has got a police department to run, not a kennel.
Well, I mean,
Well,
we
that's
could,
why
in the motion, we could
I'm
say if
thinking
there's any
ahead, too.
subsequent violations, then we take the
Dogs to
dog.
be impounded.
Yeah, they're impounded.
Mhm.
if there's any violations prior to the containment area.
Completion, yep.
Completion note. That's good to add on to the motion, Peter. I like that.
I mean, I just don't, I like the idea of allowing him to make the corrections and not taking his money because, we've been, this whole time, we've been talking about money being tight everywhere. But by the same token, we've told him the dogs needed to be contained prior to this and it hasn't happened. So there has to be some sort of consequence to make it, to make it beneficial for him to contain them.
Right.
Okay. Okay, are everybody good with that? Is want more discussion?
I don't think you
I'm
got
good
it.
with that.
Was there a second? Because I didn't hear that second.
Second.
Somebody? Okay, Ian seconded. Any more discussion?
Matt, are you okay with that approach?
Yes, I am. And thank you all. I'm sorry to bog you down with this.
No, it's
Yes.
part of our job, not one of the favorite ones, but it is part of our job.
Right.
And part of being a dog owner, they got to take responsibility of it, man.
Yeah. Agreed.
And it's part of you living here that you shouldn't have to worry about an animal barking and being close to you that looks aggressive. That shouldn't be happening.
Right.
Okay, all those in favor? Say aye, raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you,
You're
Matt.
welcome, Matt. Have a good night.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay.
What are we gonna do for 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Look at that timing.
Well, do you want to jump to Regular business item number 3, the Addison County Regional Planning Commission contract.
Sure. Consider a proposed contract with the Addison County Regional Planning Commission to assist with coordination and administration of the Clean Water Block Grant funded Stormwater Final Design Project. So Val, if I read this right, this is only gonna, we have a grant, and this is only gonna cost us $300 some odd.
It's not going to cost us anything. It's 100%.
That's what they're charging.
That's what they're charging, and the grant's going to cover it, but we need select board authorization to enter into a contract.
So moved.
Am I second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Darla seconded. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I got a question, Valerie. So this, getting these so-called drawings or something gets us to apply for the grant, correct? But if we get the grant, we're going to have an engineering firm.
This would be the engineering firm. The Regional Planning Commission will assist with the RFP and administration of solicitation for hiring an engineer to complete these final designs for the elementary school project and the school street project. These are the infiltration chambers. This is the project that we had 30% engineering designs completed for.
Okay, so it'll be ready to go out to bid with those.
Correct.
Okay, no
Correct.
more.
Right.
Engineer with a stamp has to look them over and charging. Those will be taken care of. It'll be ready to go out to bid.
Exactly.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Can you just repeat who moved? And I was having computer issues.
Ian moved and Darla seconded, I believe.
Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Okay, motion, any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, one down.
Just about right on time.
Yep.
Good.
Okay. But, hey, Jen, is there any liquor licenses down there that we need to sign? She disappeared.
If you didn't vote early, you should be there tomorrow anyway.
I don't
I gotta
think
be
so,
there
but you can
anyway.
ask Sharon. I think Sharon's on here somewhere.
Yeah, no, there isn't any.
Okay, so it's just the warrant.
This
Okay,
week.
sweet. Okay, it's 6:30. Let's call the public hearing or the annual police district meeting, public informational hearing to order. Now, shall we do what we did last time? Let Bruce make a brief statement of where his budget is, and then people can ask questions, or what he did, how his budget is. I don't know where he went. There he is. Hi, Bruce. You moved on my screen.
So, one of the things that I fail to recognize is that not everyone reads our annual reports.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start with, we have 3 full-time police officers that work 8 hours a week, right? We have 3 part-time police officers. Unfortunately, they have full-time jobs. And based on their full-time job and with the COVID restrictions over the past year, they aren't working consistent hours. So even though it sounds like we've got 3 bodies that are here, they're not here as much as they would like to be or we would like to be. So anyway, this past year, we either were dispatched to or started 2,465 incidents. Our 3-year average is 2,597. Our traffic contacts, which include traffic tickets and warnings and parking tickets and warnings. This past year, we had 1,025 contacts. The 3-year average has been 988. Since 2017-2018 budget, the funds raised by taxes have decreased for the past 3 budgets, and this year is the potential to be a 0.65% increase. So this is the first increase that funds that would be raised by taxes by the police department since 2017-18 budget. And the tax rate has decreased during that same time from 0.3635 to 0.2980. So I think sometimes we forget that the officers have been doing a great job of monitoring the budget and making sure that we're all being fiscally responsible. In August, we had a productive community engagement meeting discussing policing in our community. It was well attended, and the goal is after the budget is passed tomorrow, hopefully passed, that will be the next thing we plan our next meeting, so we can further our discussion that was well attended, and I think there's a lot of interest to continue the discussion. So, and this budget here is pretty much level funded from last year. I think the increase, like for funding by taxes, would be like $2,600 more.
Great. Thanks, Bruce.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions for Bruce on the budget? If you do, either send a chat or raise your hand and we will let you speak. Doesn't look like it.
Answered too many questions last week.
We're given.
I would say Jen did send can you share the breakout that Jen sent us on the taxes paid?
How much per person? How much per?
Yeah, per
property.
Yeah, not per property, but per $1,000.
Per 100,000. Yeah.
100,000. Mm-hmm.
That way, that was. I don't think that it exactly answered John's question, but it'll give everybody an idea of what their property's assessed at and what they're paying versus somebody who's assessed more or less.
Right.
Which is all public information. I mean, you can go and find out what houses are assessed for and businesses are assessed for, and from there, it's easy enough to figure it out.
There we go.
Okay, so this was a discussion we had with John Moyers, who was trying to figure out an average cost. And we can't
for both in district and out of district
which is
residents.
difficult to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not.
Go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say because it's not based on resident numbers. It's based on property.
Value.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So noted that 39% of townwide properties are in the police district. And the police district grand list value is 40% of the townwide value. And then this is how it breaks out.
I see.
If it's based upon the value of the property, and also the tax rate is dependent upon the grand list value within the district, which changes from year to year.
But not so significantly that these numbers aren't fairly accurate.
Right.
How is it structured if you own multiple properties within the district?
Then you pay still based on that. If you had $1 million worth of properties in the district, you'd pay
a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
you'd
all,
pay
all
10
properties.
times what somebody with $100,000.
Yeah. So it's all properties together. I guess it would be the same, wouldn't it? If you did it separately per property and then.
Yeah, but the difference is, Ian, that if you own a business property in the village and you're not a Bristol resident, you don't get to vote on the budget. Like I own property in Bristol, I couldn't vote on the budget, but I paid the district taxes.
I see.
So any business or corporation that owns business does not get a vote, but they do pay the taxes.
I see. Mm-hmm. And it would be, so even if, and this was all based on sort of the discussions that have happened many times over many, many years about opening up the police, instead of being a district, it would be towns, similar to the fire department, say.
Yeah.
So if since you live outside the district, you would then have, you personally, you'd have the ability to speak to the budget because you'd be encapsulated in that. But if you lived outside of Bristol, you still wouldn't have the ability, correct?
Right. If you were a corporation, you would still
I
not
see.
get involved.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't mean you can't ask questions. You just wouldn't get
Right.
involved.
That's right.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
I don't know I don't know there's ever going to be a way to change that, because somebody who owns more properties, it's the same with school taxes, highway tax, everything. Anybody who owns more property pays a bigger percentage because they have that much more property.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just not that I don't see any way to restructure that would be fair all the way around.
Right. I mean, if it's opened up and the discussion is had to make it townwide, I guess if you owned a lot of property, your numbers would go down, but it's still, like you said, it's still based on how much property you own. But most people, is a single property versus multiple properties.
Right.
Hey, any more questions? Okay. Time is it? So do we go back? Do you want us to go back to the agenda, Val, and
The regular.
Yeah.
where do you want us to start?
So are we concluding the police district information?
We'll conclude that. I don't see anybody with questions and,
Okay.
all right. So we will close the public meeting for the police district. And then we'll move on to general business until 7:00.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so do you want me do you think Eric's available, or should we skip that one and move on to the next one? I don't see him on.
Brett's on. He could send him a message real quick. It won't take him long to get here.
to get hooked in, but in the meantime, what would you like to, do you want to do with the Holley Hall?
Yeah. You want to do number 2?
Okay.
This is Brett, if I may, just
Sure.
if you want me to message Eric, are you going to accommodate him or not?
If he can get on real quick, we can accommodate him before 7.
Okay, I'll reach out to him.
Okay. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Brett.
Okay, so Holley Hall bell tower repair authorization to select contractor to remove and later reinstall the bell from the tower, and authorization to seek structural engineer service to determine appropriate action.
So hopefully folks had a chance to check out my notes. There's increasing concern about the stability of the bell and the bell tower, especially with water coming in and undermining certain things and causing interior damage. And there seemed to be a pretty strong agreement that at least as an interim measure, take the weight off the floor of the bell tower and get the bell out of there while we figure out what appropriate repairs are for the roof and for the flooring of the bell tower.
And go ahead, Peter.
Have we solicited anybody to do that yet?
3 people have been contacted. We did get 2 quotes so far. I haven't heard from the third. One of the quotes included refurbishing of the bell. I don't know if we want to talk about those, disclose those publicly at this point. But there's a pretty wide range of quotes so far.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, we just want to be able to get it down and then hire an engineer to figure out what needs to be done to stabilize it.
Right.
Much pleasure.
I would love to see that happen.
Yes.
So that's a motion, huh?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So Peter moved. Did you second that, Ian?
Yeah.
Okay, Ian seconded to let Val and crew get somebody to take it out and hire an engineer. Okay.
Looks like we've got storage over at the fire station. Thank you, Brett.
Yes, thank you.
And we would base our selection on cost and availability in terms of.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you. And after we solicit engineering services, that will also come back to the select board for approval.
Okay, great. And I see Eric is on. So let's
AKA,
go.
AKA Greg.
Yeah. That's what happens when you
Being quick.
Cub Scout log in. Too many hats sometimes.
Can I ask just one more quick question about the bell? Is
Yeah.
is there a concern about, it causing damage right now? Like, is the
Yes.
department in danger at this moment? Like, do we need to get out of here quickly?
It's hard to know for sure, but we don't want to take chances.
Right. No, I'm just wondering if we thinking that if it's going to come back to the board and we have to vote on it, is that something maybe we want to do via email is that something we could do via email if it was timely? I'm moving it faster rather than waiting.
Yeah, getting the bell
for a
out, I
meeting.
think, is the more timely thing. And
Right.
So are you
And
thinking?
we've given approval for that.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear that we can get the bell out as soon as possible
Yeah.
to avoid any
Or
damage.
at the least, you should have it not ring anymore.
Oh, okay.
Because that vibration shakes it.
Oh,
You just immediately stop ringing the bell.
okay.
Do we know how to do that? I don't know how to do that.
You know, been a long time since I've
It's
been in
Meredith on here. I think if Victoria doesn't wind it, it'll just slowly come to a stop.
Ah. Good point.
Okay.
All right.
That's
Let-
one
Let,
way or another.
let Victoria know that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Eric,
All right.
Bristol Fire Department authorization to proceed with vendor for new fire truck purchase.
Yes, thank you. You guys are on fire today, figuratively and literally. So Rick called me and told me to get on, so I appreciate it. I just want to give a quick kind of rundown of what happened over the last couple months. I know I talked to you guys last fall and kind of told you the track we were on and the fact that, we were researching multiple vendors. We were doing site visits. We were doing demos. We were doing lots of research. And then we had gotten down to potentially our list of 4 final vendors based on a couple different criteria. A lot of that had to do with speaking to other departments and speaking about how the service went or how they thought the trucks went. So, or if the vendor actually even called us back, or if the vendor specifically worked on trucks like we are going to have. So we got it down to that 4. That was a big move for the summer. And then we worked on what we call the bid spec. So basically that was a list of, we started at the front of the truck and went to the back. So everything that we wanted on the truck, we wanted air horns in the bumper. We wanted this for seating. We wanted this for cabinets, this for pumps, all the way through the truck. This long list of all the everything that we wanted on the truck. And we knew that some of the stuff came from some vendors and some came from other vendors. And it may be that the long list of stuff that we had couldn't be filled by any vendor. So we knew that each vendor would get as close as they could. And we had that mindset. So there was nothing that we put on that list that wasn't what I call an automatic kick out. So if you don't have this, you're out. So we knew coming in that there wouldn't be 100% return from anyone just because of the things that we asked for. So we went into it with that mindset, and that was the list we created. We talked to different experts. We talked to Pete Bouvier or Peaker or other people on the equipment committee just to try to make sure that we got everything that we needed on the bid specs. We passed that out early, so they took a look at it and gave us comments on it. So we tweaked some stuff based on that, and then we went in and started trying to finalize that. And then we put the bids out. They were due back at the beginning of February. So the bids went to the 4 vendors. Then we got the bids back and we opened them down at the town office. And then we being the group, took the 4 bids. And again, we weren't kicking anyone out. So we went through the process that we created, which was objectively, we created a scoring sheet. So we took that bid list, 1 through 300 items that we wanted on this truck. Did you give it to me? That's a 2. If you didn't, it's a 1. If you gave me a little bit extra, that was a 3. So we went through all 4 trucks with that process. And we came up with what we thought might happen. They're all fire trucks, not vastly different. The scores were basically statistically the same. So no one stuck out more than the other. None got dropped just because of the scoring. But it gave us a way to look at the process, allowed us to say, okay, truck A, you didn't give us this, but you gave us this. Truck B, you didn't give us that, but you gave us that. And then formatively, we had to decide objectively what we thought was more important. So we shot for a certain height, but we also asked for a bunch of stuff on top of the truck. So we knew that you couldn't give us both, or we hoped you could, and thought maybe the engineers would pull it out of the hat like a magic trick, but most of them didn't. So they kind of gave us their own options on what, maybe one went a little bit high on the height, or one went a little bit low on the cabinet, but they all kind of tweaked everything. So that's really when we got into the objective evaluation of the 4 trucks. What made sense on this truck? What's more important, height versus cabinet space, one pump versus the other? Discharge here, intake there. Okay, now they couldn't give us everything, but what's the best truck that's going to fit the need of the town? And we always had the idea for 20 years, like this is going to be our truck for 20 years. The second part of that was that because of the 20 years, we also looked at service, where their mechanics were. Can they service them at our station? Can we send it to them? How are we going to get it to them? Do we have to drive it? Will they come pick it up? Will they give us a rental car? Just stuff like that is because it takes a lot to set people down, drive people back. And, luckily we have some retired folks to do that, but it's not always convenient. So just the little differences there. One of them, we have a truck from them, so we already knew what our experience was with them, so we got to deal with that. How did the salesman interact with us? That's indicative of the larger company. If the salesman wasn't receptive and wasn't, talking to us all the time about what he could give us or help us out with, then maybe that's indicative of their service going forward. So those were all the things we looked at. Like I said earlier, we talked to a bunch of different fire stations, fire departments that had the various kinds of trucks. We had seen them all. Lots of online research. So that's how we worked through the process. So again, and then the final one was obviously price. So we didn't start with price. Like we didn't kick anyone out if they were too high. We didn't kick anyone out if they were too low. And the spread was pretty high. There was a roughly $100,000, $90,000 difference between the lowest and the highest. So there was quite a spread. And it actually went through what we had saved up. So some were a little higher than what we had saved, and we knew that, but we didn't want to throw them out just because of that, because there's a potential that we could have, if they gave us extra, we could have backed stuff off, or we could have done other things to get that down. So again, money obviously comes in because we have to try to be as efficient with the money that the taxpayers have saved over the last 10 years. We're not just buying a truck to buy a truck, and we're not just buying things on the truck because we want them. Those are all things we needed and all things that we think are a good fit. So that's kind of how we looked at it. And again, we didn't necessarily push anyone out because of price. So in the end, we actually voted as a group. We worked for quite a while to kind of hammer out between the subjective and the objective and all the different blueprints and everything. And we are looking to award the bid to HME. So they actually came in as the lowest bid. So there were 619,000. But that's the truck that we're recommending. It gave us a majority of the stuff that we wanted for the price that we wanted. So we think it's the most cost effective. It's the most truck that we can get for the money that we think we should spend. So that was what we voted on. And that was the will of the group. I went to the equipment committee with that last week, talked to them about some things. They had some questions. We gave them some answers. So they gave some suggestions. But again, they, in the end, said that vendor made sense. The truck itself made sense. The engine, the chassis, the tranny all fit together in a way that made sense for what we needed. So in the end, that's what we're looking for. And what I'm looking for you guys is the authorization to move forward with that vendor. So now if we select this vendor, move forward with them. And what we do is we spend the next month, give or take, really going through every line item in the contract and making sure everything is exactly the way we want it. We don't want any surprises when the truck comes back. So you go through line by line by line. The budget for this truck was 650,000. So that's what we had saved. We actually had 680 available, but we budgeted 650. So this is around 620. So what I'm looking for is over the next month is if we remove a light or move a light, or we want to make the cabinet a little higher, that might add some money. But if we want to take the suction off, then that might reduce some money. So there's some wiggle room in there. Obviously
we're going to stay under the 650 budget. But the idea is it's not going to probably be 619 100 exactly. There'll be some finagling in there as we kind of make sure that everything we want is on there. For example, the equipment committee said the front tires that they spec for us were not tready enough. So we're going to work with the town with Air Coda to see something with a little better tread. But my assumption is that's going to cost a little bit more money. Again, not thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, but just a little bit. So we'll just kind of that's a target, the 619.20, but it'll be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending on kind of the tweaks we have.
Eric, we'll just we can do is just say not to exceed. You know, we could say make a motion not to exceed 650.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That's great. Because what the second part of this is we're going to really work with them, but as a group, you know, you think we kind of got to the finish line, but really we didn't. We're kind of halfway now. We have to look at the truck we have and what it carries. You know, do a whole inventory of that and what needs to move on. Some of that stuff has been on there for 20 years. It may not need to move. Some of it, we may need to pull stuff from another truck. As part of the idea here, we actually put more stuff on this truck. So with reduced staffing, if we don't have a staff to take 2 trucks right now, we have 2 different ladders sizes on 2 different trucks. And depending on the call, we might need to take 1 truck versus the other. So this new truck has all 4 ladders on the same truck. So the idea is to put most of our frontline equipment on this truck to make it really the first due piece of apparatus. You have that first crew of 6 to get there and get out and have all the stuff that they need. So we're going to be looking at what it carries. The storage capacity on a truck from 2021 versus 1997 when the old one is, yeah, they're not even close. There's so much more storage capacity. So part of that is, do we move stuff from other trucks, consolidate things in? You know, then we have to start to talk about what's going to fit where and how we're going to organize it. So, you know, that's like phase 3 when the truck actually comes, which they're estimating about a year. So next spring when it comes, they bring it to our station. We tell them what we want in the cabinet and we tell them exactly where we want it. So every piece has its place, everything has a home. And then they take it away and they put all the adapters and fittings and then they bring it back to us, ready to roll. So that is really what we're looking for. So we're pretty happy with the bids that we got back. Like I said, they were all very close. But we felt that the HME one really gave us what we wanted and would be a good relationship for the next 20 years. So we're happy with that. And that's what I wanted to put forward to you guys and ask for authorization to move forward with that and make it public in whatever way I have to do that.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion then, Eric or Michelle, authorize not to exceed 650. Is that what you said?
Authorize them to move forward with the purchase of the truck.
Forward HME not to exceed 650.
Okay.
And I have a question here. Was there any?
Let somebody second first, Joel. Ian seconded. I can't hear him, but I can read his lips. Go ahead, Joel.
Eric, was there any discounts for any of the 4 dealers that I know the last truck, like when the truck was delivered to the manufacturer, the Spartan, it was paid for out in cash by the town, so they gave us a discount. Was there any?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, all of them have some kind of sliding discount. So HME they were all roughly the same. But if we theoretically, and this is something I would bring up over the next month with you guys, because we have all the cash, and if it comes under the 650, we have it. If you guys are willing to, like, you know, write a check on day 1 a year before the truck comes, then you can get $15,000-$20,000 off, depending on when you pay for it. It's actually a sliding scale. So if you pay for all of it now, you would get a certain amount off, you know, several $1,000s. And then if you waited till it was a quarter of the way done, it's a little bit less. And then obviously it kind of slides down. So there could be a substantial savings if you paid for it up front. And for me, I didn't know whether that was something the select board would want to pay for something before it was delivered and how that is. So I was going to have some conversations with Valerie, but that is definitely an option.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be nice to know what those numbers were, and then we could base our decision on that.
Yes.
Sure.
Was that your only question, Joel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of the motion? Raise your hand, say aye, whatever. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you. And I can send Valerie those numbers tomorrow. So if she wants to send them out. Will that work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. And then I'll touch base with Valerie, and I have been discussing how I'm supposed to make this public and all that. Give people good news and bad news stuff. So I'll touch base with you tomorrow again, Valerie. All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Research, Eric.
Good night.
Nice job.
Have
This
a
is
good night.
Brett. Can I have 60 seconds?
Sure.
I just want to take an opportunity. I think I've said it to you folks before, but there's certainly others on tonight's public information meeting. Eric and his working group over the past 13 months now have done a tremendous amount of work and work that I know, most don't understand, but that's all volunteer work these guys do, the time they have put into this, the detail that has gone into this. And I think it's worth acknowledging them because this is no small undertaking. As I made the statement to Eric several times, I said, to put it in perspective, I said, we were fortunate to receive a new facility 5 years ago. And this purchase represents the second largest purchase the town would ever make in support of their fire department. And I think it's also important to recognize and acknowledge openly that, I'm sure there's some people listening right now that are hearing these numbers for the first time. And unfortunately, to, my fellow taxpayers and citizens, that unfortunately is reality. That is what these vehicles cost today. Fortunate for us, we're able to get 20 or so years out of them. But it's just astronomical. And I just think it's important to disclose that to everyone, that we're not shooting for the stars here. That's just what it is. So thank you.
I'd like to add that to compliment and commend the select board and the staff's foresight in establishing the reserve fund and setting money aside every year toward this purchase. So not only did the town not have to borrow and pay interest, but it's been earning interest, and
Right.
the cash is on hand. And as we just heard, by having the cash on hand, there might be an opportunity for additional savings.
Absolutely. And Michelle, I'd actually, like Brett said, I'd like to actually thank the working group publicly. So Kevin LaRose, Lance Purley, Peter Coffey, James Goodyear, and Chris Purley put in, I would estimate at least 100 hours each on this. So that was a very big lift for them, and I'm really grateful for them. And I also want to say thank you to the equipment committee for working with me. So Alan Clark, Peeker, Eric Coda, and Ken Johnson also spent a lot of time on this as well. So it was a lot of work for the group, and they really put in, and I'm really thankful that I had them there. So I just want to say thanks.
Thank you all.
A lot of knowledge and expertise. Thanks, guys.
Just you.
Make sure it has enough cup holders, okay?
Got it.
Okay.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Good night, Eric. Okay, so we are going to move on to the annual town meeting, public information meeting. This is an information meeting only. Voting will start tomorrow at the town office for in-person voting, 7 to 7, down in the town clerk's office, not upstairs. And we are going to, I don't know if we're going to have our representative speak. I don't know if Caleb is on.
Caleb's on.
He is on?
Yep.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Available
so-
whenever you- yep.
Okay, we're gonna have Caleb speak first, and then Mari's gonna come on a little later around 7:30. So Caleb, I am going to let you take the floor first.
I appreciate that, and great to be here. Nice to join you for what I hope is the only kind of quasi-town meeting on video conference, and that next year maybe we can join you again in Holley Hall. I'll keep my remarks relatively brief. Just want to give some updates on what's happening in Montpelier. I am now in my second term. I've moved from the House Education Committee to the House Ways and Means Committee, so getting to address policy, kind of tax policy a little more broadly than I had the opportunity to do before. A lot of this session is really going to be focused on COVID relief. I think there's a lot of shared goals and that folks from of all stripes in Montpelier or virtual Montpelier are really pulling together on some of the core elements of responding to the pandemic. We have been, I would say, blessed to have a lot of federal support come to Vermont. and that's helped our revenue situation. It will help our local tax situation for property taxes this year, for education funding. There are certainly challenges there, but the revenue projected shortfalls looked really bad. And in fact, we now have a projected surplus. So that was a really welcome turnaround. We will be continuing to do that work as necessary and have already done some further relief bills in Montpelier where legislation was necessary. The budget will be a little different this year in that it will be a two-part budget. And again, that is largely because of difficulty in seeing exactly what kind of costs will be incurred, but also fairly fluid situation with revenues. So we've kind of pretty well done and passed through the House phase 1 of the budget, and we'll revisit that again, I think, at the end of the session. Lastly, I'll just say, though, I think that we'll be constrained this year in terms of all the different policy goals we might have. I think we will be focused on pandemic relief. I do think broadband may be a notable exception this year. It is such a divider, as we've seen, in terms of economic opportunity, in terms of educational opportunity and accessibility. And there's also, with the new community union districts, communication union districts that are forming, there's real motion on the fiber front. I'm currently working on a bill that addresses this and looks at co-locating on existing poles, specifically in Washington Electric Cooperative, but I think kind of a broader idea statewide. So that's a place that I really hope we can move things forward this year. I'll leave it there. I can be reached. You can always reach me through my contact information is at calebelder.com. You can also reach me at the legislative email address and at the legislative homepage. I will say, final plug here, all meetings are streamed on YouTube. So despite the circumstances, there's sort of an unprecedented level of access. You can literally sit into every single committee meeting if you want to, which would be, I guess, probably 60 hours just on the House side every week. But if you want to see something, it's there. And then if you want to reach out to me and have kind of further questions, I certainly welcome it. Thanks so much. Happy town meeting day. And thanks for letting me break into the meeting here. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Caleb.
Thank you, Caleb.
Okay, so folks, this is informational meeting. So what we're going to do is we're going to read through each article, and then we'll pause and let people ask questions. Ian, if you have a question, since there's so many people on, I can't see everybody, or we can't see everybody. So between Ian and I, if you have a question, send a chat, and Ian's going to try and keep track of those, or raise your hand. We'll try and keep track of that as well. Anything else, guys, that I forgot to say? You're
I
muted
put
now.
in the chat, I put links to the 2020 town report, also the 2020 town plan, and the quick guide to the town plan. That's all in the chat for people. It's also on the town of Bristol website.
Okay, all right. So we will start. Article 1, to elect town officers as required by law. 1 select board member for a 3-year term, 1 select board member for a 2-year term, 2 library trustees for a 3-year term, 1 school board member for a 2-year term, and 1 school board member for a 3-year term for Mount Airy Unified School District. 1 moderator for a 1-year term, 1 first constable for a 1-year term, 1 second constable for a 1-year term, 1 lister for a 2-year term, 1 lister for a 3-year term. And all of them, actually, who's running are listed in the annual report. And I happen to see that. Where did I see that? Is on page 11, I believe.
Yes, candidates for office.
Candidates for office, right. Does anybody have any questions on that article?
Michelle, this might be a good time to mention that that Fred Baser did not run for re-election. I was not able to find what year he was originally elected as moderator, but I'm told that it's been as far back as most people can remember. So he's been moderator for a very long time. He's been moderator for a very long time, part of Bristol's traditions. And so this, is kind of, it's a very unfortunate way for this to be his last meeting. And he's obviously not moderating this meeting because it's a totally different structure. So, and I don't believe he's zoomed in from elsewhere,
I haven't seen
not
him.
in town right now. So, anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge his service to the community.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thanks to Fred for all his years of service. Sorry to see him go. He was very good at that job.
So that's also an alert that we'll need a new moderator for next year. So
Anybody who's feeling the need. Okay. So we'll move on to Article 2. Will the voters of the town of Bristol vote that all real property taxes payable in installments shall bear interest at a rate of 0.75% per month or fraction thereof for the first 3 months and thereafter 1.25% per month or fraction thereof from the due date of each installment, with payment to the town treasurer of the real property taxes for the town's fiscal year period of July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022, being due in 2 equal installments on November 15, 2021 and April 15, 2022 by physical delivery to the town office before midnight on that date. And please note, we changed the due dates to November 15th and April 15th rather than the 5th. Any questions on those two, on that article? And this is the same as it was last year. There was no change to it. Okay. Article 3. Will the town limit the amount of the penalty charged by the collector of delinquent
Michelle.
taxes? Yeah, sorry.
You had a, from Helen Young in chat.
Mhm.
She had a.
Okay, Helen's asking, would like to receive notification when the tax bills are mailed out. Well, Helen, I think, Jen, don't they usually go out August or September, and that depends on when the state gives us information, correct?
Yes, so tax bills are always mailed in September annually. That doesn't ever change, and they're only mailed once. So there is the 2 installments, and if you don't pay the entire thing in November, then your second installment is due in April. And sometimes we send a mailer, but last year we didn't because things had changed due to COVID. So hopefully we can potentially get a mailer out this year, but if not, we try to put some front porch forum and things like that just to remind everybody that the due date's coming up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, no, maybe Jen, I think maybe we could post on front porch forum that they've been mailed out and just give people a heads up to get a lookout for if we could remember to do that. I don't know, but
So
we can do, Helen.
hopefully the situation will be improved by then, but we know that the Postal Service has had some challenges with delivery of mail, and some people aren't getting their mail until 1 or 2 months after it was initially sent. And hopefully that's not the case when fall comes around.
Yeah, we can use the social media. We can use the Town of Bristol website, our Facebook page, as well as Front Porch Forum, I think, to send those notices out. That's an easy thing to do.
Yep. Okay. All right. So Val, did you see the message that George Ty was moderator in 1989? So Fred took over after that. Okay. Any more questions on Article 3? Okay. Article 4. Will the voters set the salaries that shall be paid to the members of the select board at the same as?
Michelle, no, I interrupt you on Article 4. I don't think you finished it.
No, you interrupted me on Article 3. I just started reading Article 4.
No, I mean, I interrupt you in Article 3. I don't think you finished it.
Yeah, I did.
Helen asked about the question.
Oh, okay. You're right. Article 3. Stop interrupting me then. I lose my place. Will the town limit the amount of the penalty charged by the collector of delinquent taxes for payments made after the due date for payment to 4% of the tax collected pursuant to 32 VSA section 1674 subsection 3 subsection A? Any questions?
You might just note that the state allows up to 8% there, and this is a motion that Ken Weston makes every year to reduce it.
So we're reducing it before Ken asks us to reduce
There
it.
you go. Well, there's no way for him to ask, and the board felt that it was appropriate to keep it the same as it had been for the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay. See any questions? Okay. Article 4. Will the voters set the salaries that shall be paid to the members of the select board at the same as fiscal year 2021, being $500 plus 10 per meeting and $25 per meeting for the chair? Any questions?
This is the same as last year.
No, we got a mistake in there. It was supposed to be $15 to the chair. That's what it was last year, and somehow there was a mistake. Any questions?
I thought
Well,
it was.
we could
I
correct
thought it
that.
was
No, we
15
can't.
I thought it was 15 per meeting and
Right.
25 for the chair, but
No, maybe that's what it was, but I knew something was wrong when I read it. It was like, something's not right with this, but I don't know what it was. And then I was looking at the minutes, it said 10 and 15. So we'll have to figure that out.
you can tell easy enough. We asked for the same as last year, but we may have worded it wrong. It should be in the back, right? Last year's meeting's in the back of the
Yeah.
book.
I don't know that the amounts were actually discussed that, maybe they were.
They had to be voted, so they would have been, it would have been in the Article 4.
It should
Yeah,
be.
right here, Peeker. On page 114, Article 5, last year, to set the salaries that shall be paid to the members of the select board, set the annual salary of $500 a year, 15 per meeting for members and $25 a meeting for the chair.
There, so we've lowered our amount.
So it was supposed to be 15 and 25, Joel?
That's what it says on page 114.
Yeah.
Last year's town meeting.
Well, it does say the same, so I would think that we need to clarify that. I don't think anybody needs to take a pay cut. We're already overpaid, so.
It's certainly in the budget.
Can we can clarify that at our first board meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay.
Maybe Article 4 can be interpreted as $500 plus at least $10 per meeting. That's the minimum.
Well, we want, since this is, it's already been printed, we do want to be clear that, yeah, so
There's a typo.
Yeah, there is a typo. So it's, instead of 10, it should be 15. So it will be higher. So voters should know that because of the typo. And I guess we can only clarify that now, or if someone asks us later on, that's everyone will see 10 tomorrow, even though our intention was saying 15, which was the same as last year.
I mean, our budget definitely has it in for the 15 and 25.
Right. I think we just missed something. It was missed when the articles were created, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Jen, we can't change the ballot, but
right.
All have already been voted.
We can clarify it at our first meeting.
Joel's already voted for less money for us.
Oh, people have already voted. You can't change it.
That's what I was saying, Joel, was just what change can actually be made just because it is on Australian ballot.
Right.
Not in-person meeting, I guess, was the question I was trying to gauge.
And nothing can be changed, but the wording is right to make it what it was last year. So
No, the wording is not right. The wording says fiscal year 2021, right? It should be 2020/2021. Is that right?
Yes.
Should be fiscal year 22.
No, it's the same as last year.
No,
Same
just
as.
as fiscal year 2021.
Which is this year. That's this current year.
So it would be July 1, 2021
That's
to
right.
June 30, 2022.
Yes.
That's next year.
Right. So it would be the same as last year if it was the numbers that are printed there now.
Take a cut and
So
pay.
when you say fiscal year 2021, are you saying July 1, 2020 to June 30, 2021?
Correct.
Okay.
We are currently in fiscal year 2021.
2021. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So any more questions on that? Maybe next year we'll get it right. Okay. Article 5. And with this, Ian has put a link on in the chat for the town plan, if people would like to look. Will the voters of the town of Bristol adopt the Bristol Town Plan as updated by the Planning Commission and approved by the Select Board on December 14, 2020? Copies of the document may be reviewed at the Bristol Town Office or on the town website. Any questions? I don't see any.
Our chair of the planning commission is here, I believe.
Going back to the last thing, Elizabeth Blair asked, should the town vote, the voters vote against the salaries? I don't know if you saw that.
Oh.
No, because the wording is right. The typo is in the dollar amount.
Oh, the wording is not right, Peter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. We're in fiscal 2021.
Right.
Next year is fiscal 2022.
Correct. It's because we have that.
Which starts July 1st.
Right.
So
No,
you should not vote it down. It's just,
No.
yeah. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out. Okay. Any questions on the town plan, Article 5?
So, Katie, do you want to speak to the changes that you and your committee have made, or commission,
Briefly?
sorry, or the changes that are hopefully will be voted on tomorrow?
Yeah, I could do that. Wasn't
Thank you.
quite prepared, but I think I know it by heart now.
Sorry.
Been going on long enough. Anyways, well, let's see. So we started the town plan. I can't even remember now, but I know Sue Kavanaugh was still on the board. But we had to add a few sections to the town plan so that it could be regionally approved. The state is requiring, they continually, there'll be, or just ongoing, there'll be new sections that we need to add to our plan. And this round, we worked on a forest fragmentation plan, section to the plan. And we, let's see, that was the main piece. We also had to sort of update our flood resiliency section and flood hazard maps. And as we started working on the plan, we went through and updated data, got all the statistics correct. We did some, we just couldn't help ourselves to just, work on all the goals and policies and all those things. So, the other big piece is the energy. I knew there was something I was forgetting, the enhanced energy plan, which it's kind of a plan in itself because it's quite large, but it is as an appendix in this plan, and it is part of the plan. And that was worked on. We had a subcommittee that worked on it. Ian was part of that for a while, or the whole way through, and we had energy committee members and we had planning commission members working on that as well. We've had a lot of conversation about that, but I am willing to answer some questions. I think there's some other people here that could answer them as well. But let me just go back to the forest fragmentation section, which is also referred to as Act 171. And basically what that is kind of looking a deeper sort of dive at looking at the forest blocks and the habitat connectors that exist now in Bristol and describing them. It's like an inventory really of these areas. And almost all of them fall in the conservation areas that we already have. But then you get to the land use piece and you discuss, there's objectives about how you want to look at these areas. So nothing really changed. It was really just a sort of deeper sort of exploration of, the natural resources that we have and how we are planning around them. I could say more, but I can also stop. So
No,
question.
that's great. Thank you.
Yep, that's a brief overview. Perfect.
Yeah, and we've got in the chat, I linked to the quick guide that the planning commission
And
put
that's
together
really
in terms
great.
of.
I thought that was
Yeah.
really great. Jeff Lundstedt did that, and that was very helpful. Okay.
Okay, does anybody
Terrific.
have any questions? Okay. All right. Article 6. Will the voters authorize the transfer of $75,000 from the fire department equipment reserve fund to the fire department vehicle fund for the purposes of contributing to the purchase of a new fire engine? And Brett, I think you're still on. If you want to give a brief representation of why we want that done or why you want to do that.
Absolutely. So yes, good evening, everyone. Brett LaRose, Fire Chief. The Town of Bristol Fire Department has two capital equipment plans. One is specifically for capital equipment, as an example, like a self-contained breathing apparatus or a saw, a significant purchase that you wouldn't put in your operating budgets, and you only buy every 10 or 15 years perhaps. And then we have our capital apparatus or fire truck plan, which is specifically for the purchase of wheeled vehicles. The fire department, last year, we were successful in applying for an assistance to firefighter grant in the amount around $125,000, $130,000. Don't quote me on that amount, but we were successful in that grant. Therefore, the monies that had been set aside, it wasn't $125,000, but there was a significant amount of money set aside in the capital equipment plan to replace the fire department's self-contained breathing apparatus. Those are those air things we wear on our backs. Because we were successful and we recognized a shortfall in our capital budget for the purchase of a new fire pumper, I asked the select board if we could move $75,000 from the capital equipment fund to the capital apparatus fund to help make up that shortfall that we will have. Is that clear? I hope.
Clear for me. Anybody have any questions?
So there again, it's money. We just want to make it clear that that's money that we already have in an account. That's not an addition to your taxes.
Yes, thank you, Peter, for clarifying that.
Okay. We'll move on to Article 7. Will the voters adopt the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal year Public Works Highway Fund operating budget in the amount of $809,116, a portion thereof in the amount of $706,144 to be raised by taxes? The tax rate on the 2021 grand list of the town sufficient to raise said sum as taxes to be determined by the select board. Any questions, comments? Haven't seen anybody. Okay. Move on to Article 8. Will the voters adopt the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal year Arts, Parks, and Recreation Department budget in the amount of $307,211, a portion thereof in the amount of $202,411 to be raised by taxes? The tax rate of the 2021 grand list of the town sufficient to raise said sum as taxes to be determined by the select board. That is, any questions? Okay, Craig is asking on Article 7, does that mean our tax rate would go up? Craig, the tax rate will be based on the overall increase to the budget. Valerie, what can you say what was our total increase?
With all of the departments, the overall increase is expected to be 1.6%. From the Public Works Department, let's see, I don't have that figure calculated.
That's okay. I mean, but the overall is 1.6% increase. So you'll see for the municipal taxes, that's what the increase would be. And that will be dependent on our grand list. But that doesn't include the education tax. That's just the municipal tax increase.
But if our grand list grows 1% or so, it would almost be a flat.
Right. Okay. Any questions on Article 7 or Article 8?
Michelle, this is Meredith.
Hi, Meredith.
I just want to say that we basically level funded our budget for this upcoming year. So just, and also I just wanted to give a shout out to Alex and Taylor for being amazing and really helping the rec department, making things amazing for our community. So I just want to throw that in there.
You guys have been challenged this year.
We have, but we pulled off some amazing events and camps and clinics.
Yep. Yes, we are. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Michelle, to answer the previous question on Article 7, actually the highway budget to be raised by taxes is down $10,000 this year. Last year it was $716,000. This year it's $706,000. The portion to be raised by taxes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Article 9. Will the voters adopt the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal year general fund operating budget in the amount of $976,393, a portion thereof in the amount of $783,099 to be raised by taxes, subject to modification by actions on the previous articles? The tax rate on the 2021 grand list of the town sufficient to raise said sum as taxes to be determined by the select board. Any questions? Val, do you know what was the increase on the general fund?
$40,000.
Increase? Okay.
Yep.
Overall from last year. Thank you, Nika.
And some of that is due to changes we made in the way we pay for things. They were moved from, what was it, the phone, have all been moved to the general fund, and
right.
So there's a few changes there.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to level fund almost everything, but there's some things you just can't level fund. Okay. Okay, I see.
Michelle, didn't our county tax go up?
Our county tax, well, Jen, it did go up, but not like it did the previous year, right? She's not hearing me. Sharon, do you know? Sharon or Jen, the county tax, did that go up this year drastically, or was that last year?
It went up more than we had budgeted for last year, I think. And then this year we made a guess, and then they did give us a number, and their guess was a little bit more than we expected. That's towards the end of the budget under taxes and dues and that section of the budget, if you wanted to look to see the comparison of the years.
Okay. No, I knew that one year we got a bill we were totally not expecting. So, okay. All right. I see that Mary Cordes is here. So we are going to give her a chance to let her talk. And actually Senator Ruth Hardy's here as well. So pick, which one would you like to go first?
I went first last time at Lincoln tonight. So Senator Hardy, why don't you go?
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Have you already heard from Representative Elder and Senator Bray?
We've heard from Caleb Elder.
Yeah. Okay. So Senator Bray is probably going to pop on soon too. We were going to meet here at 7:30, even though we're seating in the same place. We're meeting in Bristol at 7:30. Thank you all for having me to the Bristol town meeting. My name is Ruth Hardy. I live in East Middlebury, so it's a pleasure to be at your meeting. I wish I could be there in person. I represent the Addison district, including, of course, Bristol and all of Addison County and Huntington and Buellsgore. I will be brief. I first of all want to make sure you all know that starting today, anyone 65 and older is eligible to sign up to get their COVID vaccination. And the special vaccination clinic on Friday in Essex Junction for veterans age 55 and older. And apparently I just learned in my last meeting that is starting next week, teachers, childcare workers, and people with certain healthcare issues can sign up. So this is all great news. I encourage you to do so. The second thing is I serve on the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate Health and Welfare Committee. In the Finance Committee, we are working really hard to create a broadband package that will hopefully significantly move the dial on access to reliable broadband across our states. Including throughout the more remote parts of Bristol that may not have good access at this point. We are putting some emergency funding in early, and as we did last year, and then we are hopefully setting the table for what we expect to have a big influx of federal funds. So we are working with communication unions districts, including the Addison County one, which is called Maple Broadband, to try to reach some really remote parts of the state that don't have broadband. So stay tuned for that and reach out if you have questions. We're also working on an emergency bill that will include other housing, funding for things like housing, other healthcare related mental health issues, et cetera. So we're working hard on a lot of issues this year and doing so remotely for the entire session. But please reach out if you have questions or concerns or need help accessing any government services. Thanks everyone for having me here tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is Representative Mari Cordes from Lincoln. I wish I could be seeing all of you, but I hope you're all warm and well. As Senator Hardy said, please reach out anytime. I love hearing from you. And I know a lot of us have been, a lot of you have been in touch in regards to some of the government services that Senator Hardy was mentioning, including assistance with unemployment and pandemic unemployment. Some of you are still having issues, and I'm very concerned and sorry about that. I'm in the House Healthcare Committee, so Senator Hardy and I are, because bills go back and forth between the chambers, are working on some of the same issues. We're continuing to focus on COVID support for the healthcare system, including making sure to continue supports for telemedicine, including audio only, which has been a literal lifesaver for some folks that either don't have broadband or for other reasons need to use audio only. So insurance will cover that. So that's moving right along. I'm also working with the House Healthcare Committee on a health equity bill. It's a comprehensive bill that ensures that we address disparities in our healthcare system. With the help of some folks in our area, we've had a comprehensive bill drafted to help patients with medical debt issues and help prevent medical debt issues, as well as when I learned about the Marble Works pharmacy closing, I had I've been already been concerned for many years about the pharmaceutical industry. So I have introduced, working with a coalition, a very comprehensive bill to deal with pharmacy benefit managers and pharmacy reform. And then other priorities for me are our environment and natural resources. Also, with the assistance of one of our friends in our district, had a bill drafted that clarified Vermont water quality standards so that our wetlands will be protected. It was a clarification of language. There's so much more I could tell you, and I know you have a full meeting tonight. Oh, the last thing is I also wanted you to know education funding reform is also a priority, and I, with Representative Elder and Representative Bukowski, introduced a bill to address that, following the recommendations of the Tax Commission and the unanimous recommendations of the Tax Commission on moving away from using property tax at all for funding, education funding reform. So please ask me any questions by email, social media, or by phone. I'd love to hear from you. Be well.
Thank you very much. You haven't seen Chris Bray come in, have you, Ian?
I just heard from Chris. This is Ruth Hardy, and he said he's tied up in the Leicester Town meeting. We've been sharing duties, but he should be here soon. He's definitely intending to come. So I will say good night, and thanks for having me.
Okay. Good night. Thank you.
Ruth.
Good night.
Thanks, Ruth.
Okay.
I'm going to head out too. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mari.
Thanks, Mari.
Article 10. Will the voters appropriate the following sums to be placed in various town reserve fund accounts as noted? Capital Building Fund, $30,000. Capital Fire Equipment Fund, $25,000. Capital Fire Vehicle Fund, $100,000. Capital Highway Equipment Fund, $135,000. Capital Road Fund Construction, $40,000. Capital Road Fund Paving, $125,000. Capital Sidewalk Fund, $35,000. Conservation Fund, $10,000. Reappraisal Fund, $5,000. Technology Fund, $7,000. And that totals, that's a total of $512,000. Does anybody have any questions on those numbers? Those are all the same from last year, if I remember right. Yes, but none of those have changed. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to Article 11. And the rest of these are all the appropriations, which are usually we vote on the floor in a lump sum, and now you will individually vote on each one of them on the ballot. First one, Article 11. Will the voters approve an appropriation of $145,248 for the Lawrence Memorial Library for its annual operating budget, said sum to be raised by taxes? Any questions? Do not see anything. Ian, I assume you're watching too, so you'll
I am.
flag me.
Yep. And the library report can be found on page 99 of the town report, along with our budget for this year.
Article 12. Will the voters appropriate $29,000 for the Bristol Cemetery Association, Inc. in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691 for the purpose of maintaining Greenwood Cemetery, mowing and trimming in a well-kept manner? Any questions, comments? Okay. Article 13. shall the voters appropriate $10,000 to Bristol Core, Bristol's nonprofit downtown organization committed to increasing and maintaining the economic vitality of the downtown area? We'd like to give a shout out to Ian because he is stepping down from Core and he's done a great job. So they're in the process of looking for a new leader.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to answer any questions. The core report is on page 90 of the town report. But if people have questions, let me know. Or if you're interested in being an executive director of a terrific nonprofit in Bristol, do contact me.
Okay.
Are you trying to say they're not knocking down your door to take that over, Ian?
I'm not saying anything. I will still be on the board and be involved, but just not as the executive director.
Okay, Article 14, shall the voters appropriate $6,000 to the Bristol 4th of July Committee to organize the parade and events at the town green? Any questions? And just to say, all of these have been level funded. They are the same as last year and there are no new appropriations for this year. Okay, Article 15. Shall the voters appropriate $2,500 to the Bristol Historical Society, caretaker for the local area history, including local legends and artifacts? Questions or comments? Okay, Article 17. Shall the voters appropriate $15,000 to the Bristol Recreation Club to manage the 10-acre recreation land and properties adjacent?
Michelle,
What's that?
you forgot 16.
Oh, you're right. Shall the voters appropriate $2,000 to the Bristol Little League to provide baseball and softball for elementary school children? Okay. Article 17. Shall the voters appropriate $15,000 to the Bristol Recreation Club to manage the 10-acre recreation land and properties adjacent to the Mount Abe Unified School District? Okay, Deb has a question.
Yep.
In 2020, what happened with the funds from last year? They are still there, and the 4th of July committee is hoping to use them for this year to, assuming we have a 4th of July parade, to do bigger and better. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
Ted's on.
Is Ted still on? Hey, Ted, are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Is that the plan, right?
That is the plan.
Okay. I just didn't want to misspeak.
Okay. And then Alice Leeds has her hand up. I don't know if Alice, you have a question.
Alice, do you have a question? Were you raising your hand for that? No, she's not answering. Oh, and I see Christopher Bray is coming in.
Yep, he's coming in.
All right, so we'll wait on, we were on Article 17, so we'll move on.
Okay, I just figured out how to unmute. I'm on. Okay.
Go ahead, Alice, ask your question.
Thanks, Michelle. I actually missed the item. I'm a little bit behind. I'm a little slow on the draw here on my device. My question goes back to the cemetery cost of this maintaining the cemetery, and I was just wondering that it just seems like a very large amount, and I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more about why that costs so much.
It costs far more.
Yeah,
Yeah, it costs far more than that to maintain the cemetery. It's the mowing and the trimming, but they do so much more than that. And whether you're aware of it or not, if the group that oversees that now were to give it up, it would all become the town's responsibility. And Ian, do they have a sheet on what they spend, or?
Yes, they do. So page 88 is their report from previous year, and then 89 is the cemetery financials page. And so that, Alice, if you look through the town report, you'll see that the income from 2020 and then the disbursements in 2020. And so the mowing and trimming contract is actually more than what the appropriation that they asked for. And you'll see a breakdown of all their the charges and their costs.
Okay, Ian, if I have any further questions, could I just refer to you, email you about them?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Alice.
Yeah.
And I see Chris has joined us. So Chris, if you'd like to take the floor and speak, we're between articles.
Thank you very much. Nice to see my neighbors virtually. Being a lot more fun to do this in person again next year. But I think we're all looking forward to that. So this is my second Bristol town meeting as a resident and your senator. And I'll just say it again briefly. I'm loving living in the village. It's great. It's been a long time since I've been able to walk anywhere to do things. So one of the privileges of village living. So I'll just give a brief legislative update. You probably know last March 13th, we left the State House because of the pandemic. We didn't come back this year. There was some thought we would come back like April, May, but the pandemic's still going, even though things are on the mend. So it was decided last week that we will stay out for the entire session. We won't be in the building again till next January. And so we continue to work remotely. The first job, and it was last year, and again, when we came back this year, was responding to COVID, which is a challenge for us in so many different ways, from income and unemployment to healthcare to managing schools. It's really on an almost endless list, but people have been pulling together and we've made a lot of adjustments. For instance, when I was on government operations, we changed many, many laws in order to have us legal meetings that could meet remotely, legal signing of documents remotely, to have our elections by mailed ballots, and all these things that we did not have in law before. My mornings and the main body of my work in the last 8 years in the State House has been chairing natural resources and energy. So each year we continue to work on clean air and clean water, which is an ongoing challenge. We have made progress, but there have been a lot of, I'll just say it the simplest, most direct way. There's been a lot of pollution going into the bodies of water in Vermont, and we're working hard in a number of ways, from how we manage it: roads, parking lots, fields, farms, forests, you name it, all the way around, to try to keep water in place where it falls, reduce the amount of runoff, and reduce the kind of pollutants that get into the lake and spoil water for all of our enjoyment. We also worked on clean air issues, and then we also work on energy issues. So the biggest and brief thing, the major bill we're working on right now relates to helping people save money heating. In the last 20 years, we've had Efficiency Vermont running, and it has, in all of us, through that energy efficiency charge on our electric bill, chipped in $658 million over the last 20 years. And with that, we've purchased $2.4 billion with a B dollars worth of savings. So it's roughly, for every $1 we pay in, we end up saving $4. And it's been a great investment for Vermont. On top of that, it's reduced pollution and emissions. So it's a place where energy and the economy and the environment go hand in hand. Doing well by one can also mean doing well by the other. We have not created any such program for how we deal with the heat in the state of Vermont. So our committee is working on how could we have a similar program that we could fund that would help us save money heating our homes. We know that when you weatherize, on average, you can be higher and lower depending on what you do, but you save almost a third on the average weatherization project on your, and that's not just a third this year, of course, it's 1/3 for every year to come. So it's a cost-effective investment The challenge for most of us is how do you come up with the money in the first place? So we're working on ways to make it affordable and help people weatherize and save money, and then reduce the amount of fuel we use, and that reduces the emissions we have. And then we're starting a small pilot program that I hope leads to a similar effort in transportation, because clean transportation is also, if you can get over the threshold to invest in it, very cost effective. It costs a lot less to run an electric vehicle over a decade than it does a gas powered one. And right now, if you're in Burlington Electric territory, you can charge your vehicle with the equivalent of 62 cents a gallon gasoline. That's how they have a special rate for charging. So, down and across the street, it's about $2.80. I'd rather pay 62 cents than $2.80. No offense to any gas dealers around here. And we'd like to make that affordable for everyone. So that's my brief report for now. And happy to take any questions if you have them, but I know you're in the middle of a meeting. So thanks so much for giving me a moment to say hello again and just share out a brief report on what we're working on.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Chris.
My pleasure.
Anybody have any questions? Not, Chris can have a good night unless he wants to hang around.
Well, I'm going to zoom into the Zoomerverse to one more town this evening. So
okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Be well and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay. So we'll go on to Article 18. Shall the voters appropriate $13,500 to the Bristol Rescue Squad to provide emergency treatment and transportation of ill and injured persons to nearby hospitals?
I don't think you read 17, Michelle, last time.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yep. You did.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I thought that's where we left it on.
Correct.
When Alice had a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on Article 18? Okay, Article 19. Shall the voters appropriate $1,200 to the Bristol Town Band, a group of citizens that play weekly on the town park and at other locations? And we are hoping they will be back this year.
Michelle, I'd like to just point out say to the town band that they're one of the organizations that didn't take their $1,200 last year.
Yeah.
I don't condemn them for that.
Yes.
I'd say them for that.
Yeah, and the idea behind that was they didn't use it, but if they don't ask for it this year, they fall out. So if they don't, this saves them from having to petition, and if they don't use the money, they'll give it back. Which, like Joel says, we commend them on that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, Article 20. Shall the voters appropriate $4,700 to Addison County Home Health and Hospice for providing in-home care and hospice? Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Article 21. Shall the voters appropriate $4,800 to Addison County Parent-Child Center to provide family education services? Questions, comments? Okay. Article 22. Shall the voters appropriate $2,000 to Addison County Readers, Inc. to support preschool literacy activities? Questions or concerns, comments? Okay. Article 23. Shall the voters appropriate $1,150 to Addison County Restorative Justice Services, Inc. to provide restorative projects for offenders who have potential to learn from their mistakes? Questions? Okay, Article 24, shall the voters appropriate $300 to Addison County River Watch Collaborative, the citizen-run water quality monitoring program? Any questions? Okay, Article 25, shall the voters appropriate $2,700 to Age Well to provide home and community-based services? Questions, comments? Okay, Article 26, shall the voters appropriate $3,875 to the Counseling Service of Addison County to offer professional mental health services, including a 24-hour emergency service? Comments, questions? Okay, Article 27, shall the town appropriate $1,200 to end-of-life services, formerly hospice volunteer services, said sum to come from town funds? Questions, comments?
Can I just add one thing about that?
Sure, Catherine.
Catherine Wilson from Church Street. I'm a volunteer with EOLS, and along with the services that have been provided in the past, we also now do bereavement support. So we don't call it bereavement counseling because we're not necessarily all of us trained as counselors, but it allows us to meet with people who have lost a loved one and meet to talk, be heard, and supported.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Article 28, sorry. Shall the voters appropriate $1,000 to Homeward Bound Addison County Humane Society, Inc. to promote the ethical treatment of and prevention of cruelty to all domestic animals by providing shelter and education services? Questions, comments? Okay, Article 29. Shall the voters appropriate $3,250 to HOPE, Helping Overcome Poverty's Effects, to provide emergency services, dental care, and affordable housing? Questions? Okay, Article 30. Shall the voters appropriate $1,400 to John Graham Housing and Services to provide emergency shelter to the homeless? Questions or comments?
I'll add that a lot of these organizations have reports in the town report, and they can be found in starting page 87. So if people are interested in looking at reports for the past year for a lot of these organizations, they're listed in there.
Thanks, Ian. Article 31. Shall the voters appropriate $3,500 to NEAT, Northeast Addison Television, a nonprofit public access television station which serves Bristol's 5-town region, and who are currently recording our meetings?
And have recorded a lot of our committees and commissions for many, many years.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Article 32. Shall the voters appropriate $1,000 to Open Door Clinic to provide free health care to the uninsured and underinsured residents in Addison County? Questions? Okay. Article 33. Shall the voters appropriate $750 to RSVP and Green Mountain Foster Grandparent Program volunteer, a program for people 55 and older who want to help meet community needs through use of their skills and knowledge to nonprofit organizations? Any questions or comments? Okay, moving on. Article 34. Shall the voters appropriate $11,306 to Tri-Valley Transit, formerly Addison County Transit Resources, to provide transportation with a Tri-Town shuttle bus and other transportation services for elderly and the disabled? Any questions or comments? Okay. Article 35. Shall the voters appropriate $3,000 to Turning Point Center of Addison County Behaviors for the purpose of supporting its mission to assist persons, their families, and their friends in recovery from substance use disorder and addictive? Questions or comments? Okay, Article 36. Shall the voters appropriate $1,650 to Vermont Adult Learning to provide educational programs for adults? Questions or comments? Okay, and the last one, Article 37. Shall voters appropriate $3,500 to Women's Safe to promote social welfare of Addison County to reduce the incidence of physical, sexual, and emotional violence against women? Any questions or comments?
Hi, Craig Allen.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yep, not on the article itself, but I'd forgotten to ask on page 29 of the report, the line that says local agreement. I wondered what that was because I don't see that tying back into part of the main parts of the report. It's a small line item, but I just wondered.
The 5-year funds raised by taxes, that page?
Correct, yeah, sort of down in the center, there's a line that says local agreement.
Mm-hmm.
What that really is.
Val? I was going to say that's the police department, but I don't
No,
want
it's not. It's
Sort of bounces around.
like properties that are exempted or nonprofits that don't pay taxes or other kinds of benefits.
So like the Lodge, the Legion,
I
the
believe so.
Rescue Squad.
Churches, certain churches.
I believe so, or veterans benefits, exemption.
Okay.
things.
Yeah,
So once
they aren't totally tax exempt, but they're payments in lieu of taxes, sort of like in Burlington or.
And I believe the term local agreement refers to those items or those properties that voters vote on, and that's why it's called a local agreement.
Yeah, okay, but it bounces around a bit. Because I think they're only exempt from they're not exempt from the school portion.
Right.
Of
Correct.
The tax. So, yeah,
Correct.
yeah, thanks. But I wondered also, way back to the beginning, with Fred unfortunately resigning here, so to speak, how is the town going to select a new moderator, assuming we meet in person next year, a year from now?
We're probably going to be recruiting.
Right.
No, but is there a process, so to speak, that we all get together and get a petition, or somebody just?
I think if somebody's interested, can't the select board appoint the moderator temporarily or
Until the next election,
until the next election?
I
correct.
was just curious.
To fill any vacancy, elected vacancy.
I mean, someone could get some write-ins tomorrow and win it too.
Greg, you want to put your name in?
No, sorry, no.
Well,
No, I think maybe, Bob would be a good candidate there, Joel. So, Bob Bernstein, right? So.
But Craig, back to your local agreement though, when Peaker said that like the rescue squad, Limas Lodge, that we've already given them tax exempt for 5 years, the town of Bristol is on the hook though for the education portion of that. The voters have to pay. There's an like in the rec field, that's tax exempt, but we have to pay the portion to the state. The state doesn't let us not pay the education part.
But the nonprofit doesn't have to kick that in. They're 100%.
No.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Joel.
That's not all of them. Is that correct, Val? Isn't there some of them that pay, that just have agreement with us that they don't pay the town portion, but they pay the school?
Not
That was my understanding.
Age well that way, or the one on, is it Maple Street?
Yeah, because I used to work for Living Well.
Living Well.
On
That's
Maple
what-
Street.
Thank you.
It was my understanding that we still had to pay the school portion.
And I think that's right for them.
Yeah, so it varies. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments on anything in the town report before we end the informational meeting?
Just want to draw attention to the dedication and memoriam for Pete Domenico, who was a champion for the rivers and was a founding and active member of the Bristol Conservation Commission, among other organizations. He'll be missed.
And Michelle, I'd like to send a shout out to Ian. He's done his design, his background is in designing, and I think the town report has come a long way this year. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, Sharon and I worked on that. We worked together last year on it. And I sort of worked on it.
Sharon too.
Yeah. And so one of the main things we did was just sort of organizing the areas a little bit better than previous years. And I updated the table of contents. It used to be alphabetical, which I know a lot of people were familiar with. But I felt that in terms of just the amount of information that's in the town report now, it sort of grows every year, especially with organization reports, things like that. It was more suited to an actual standardized table of contents where we can break it down into the different sections in terms of town budget, financial reports, commission committee reports, organization reports, and then have it so the numbers are sequential as you go through. So hopefully it's a little bit easier for people to find things in the physical version. And then with the PDF version that we have online on the town webpage, you can also just click right on a particular thing in the table of contents, and it will take you to that page. So if you're interested in a particular report or a particular budget item, you should just be able to click and go right to that, hopefully making it easier.
Okay.
And I'll say for tomorrow, so for people voting tomorrow, which I'll be one of them, it's a 4-page ballot, which is unusual, just given that everything is Australian ballot. So it will take some time. I think voters should be aware of that. Voting is downstairs, not upstairs in Holley Hall, and it'll be sort of a pass-through system heading in the front door, picking up your ballot, filling it in, and then heading out through the rear entrance. But if anyone has any questions, do feel free to email me or contact the town offices.
Okay, perfect. Okay, since I don't see anybody with questions, we are going to close the informational meeting for the town of Bristol.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Just one quick thing. My computer's been down most of the night.
but I just want to know if there was any real good explanation given why Pete didn't have on a new shirt. He usually has on his annual shirt.
Because he's not going anywhere tomorrow.
Yeah.
No. Traditional thing. We don't want to break tradition. Come on.
It's cold in my house.
Okay, second.
But you could have what he's got on under that sweatshirt, right?
Actually, you're not the first person to ask. Hang on, Jim.
Okay.
My
What are
wife
you
brought
doing,
this to me and said that
All right.
I
Way to go.
didn't have it on, so.
Glad you did.
Thanks, Heather.
So when you do the polls tomorrow, Peter, you better have it on.
Okay.
My only other question thing was, I think that this year you guys are going to find out what the true vote is with the Australian ballot, because every town meeting, as you know, only a few people show, and those are the people that vote on a lot of things that affect our taxes. So maybe you should analyze what happens this year if you want to continue that. Other than that, good job, guys. Take care. Everybody be safe.
Okay. All right. So we'll close the meeting and we'll move on to the rest of our regular select board meeting. For all of you that have attended, thank you. And we're going to sign off. Have a good
But
night.
I thought Jim was raising his hand.
Now he answered his question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So thank you, everybody, and make sure you go vote tomorrow. Okay, so we'll move on.
Joe, they can stay on the select board meeting, right?
That's what I said. They can stay on. For
Oh,
those who want to stay on, they're welcome to stay on. But if you're not, then have a good night. Lincoln Select Board requests that the Bristol Select Board consider signing on to a letter to MAUSD. You guys all get to read the letter?
No.
Yes, indeed.
I did.
And also, the select board received a communication from Kevin Hansen as a citizen, expressing his suggestion that the select board not sign the letter.
Did you say you read it or you didn't read it, Joel?
I didn't read it. I didn't get a copy of it.
All you had to do is click on the blue portion in the town.
Oh my God, and even Pinker knows that, Joel.
That's not a safe link at work and it won't allow me. I'm sorry, people.
Val, can you put it, can you share that?
Yes, hang on just a moment.
Barely let you guys in.
You're gonna have to stay up late one night and do it from home. Like do it Sunday when I'm at home. That's when I have to do my homework.
Too locked down.
Okay, Joel, it's coming on the screen.
There, I'll put it in the chat as well, Joe.
So comments, thoughts?
What exactly is Lincoln asking for?
They want us to support whatever this is. I mean, my concern here is that I'm not sure I see what we're supporting.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I didn't really
Right.
get the gist of the letter. I mean,
I think it's the sentiment that the superintendent seems to be stepping over his apparent authority, and what he's proposed to the school board should not be followed at all, and that we should agree to also not follow it. I personally do not support this letter. I feel that it presents some of the information in a very sort of controversial light. I think there are elements of sort of fear mongering the way it's written, and I speak as a person who's followed the school discussions for
Ian, you're cutting in and
meetings, both in person and on Zoom, and I feel that it's sort of misrepresenting some of the information that's coming to light. And so for me personally, I can't support this.
Oh, and
when I first read this, my first thought was, number one, there's no like other solutions in this letter for us to like look at and say, oh, that's a good idea. And the other second thing is that's what the superintendent's job is to do, is to present the facts as he sees them, or the facts, and it's up to the school board to make the decision. He's not making the decision. He's just giving them options.
Right.
I think we have elected school board members. This taxpayers in this district, this town have elected, or we've appointed in one or two. And I think they're very versed on this. They've been attending a lot of the meetings, or all the meetings, countless hours. And I think we should leave it with them. We make town decisions and they make school board decisions for the best of, with all the knowledge they have, make school board decisions on behalf of the students of our district, K through 12. And I don't support this. I think we represent the voters, and some of the things they don't want to talk about is the educated child at Bristol Elementary is somewhere in the neighborhood of 16,000, and in Lincoln it's somewhere in the neighborhood of somewhere about 28,000. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm just reading what I see on the meetings. I get on Neat TV and read what I see on Front Porch Forum. So I don't support this letter. I think we ought to let our school board handle the school business.
Mm-hmm.
I understand where this letter comes from. They're a school that's one of the proposed consolidations, I guess is what you'd call it. And I think and it comes from a very personal place for folks in Lincoln, for voters in Lincoln. So I understand that. On the other hand, Joel has said and Ian has said, I've gone to many of the meetings from the very start, from the community meetings. I feel like if I'm reading this right, they feel like they've been part of these community meetings, but their voice hasn't been heard. And when the recommendation came down, it was something that they hadn't even heard of before. So I understand the letter. I understand where it comes from. And I think if Bristol was a school that was going to be closed, we might feel differently. So I'm trying to look at it as a broader picture. But as the letter is written, I don't feel, because there isn't another proposed solution, I don't feel comfortable in supporting it at this time. But I understand the mindset.
Well, I understand that side of it, Darla, and anytime you talk about this came up a few years ago when they were talking about doing renovations, and it was brought to their attention that we had room at Bristol Elementary, mm-hmm. and they wanted their local school, which I get. The other side mm-hmm. of it is, anytime you close a facility, you're talking about loss of a job, and that's your neighbors, which I truly sympathize with as well. I'm sure that their teachers are probably Lincoln residents, or at least some of them are. And yeah, I feel for that. Well, like you said, there's no answer to the question. There's no alternative for us to be thinking about.
Right.
And I get, like you say, I get where they're coming from, but I don't think that it's a fight that we have a contender in.
Right. I also think it's important to note that the school board has said that they would sort of slow down the process and take another look at things. I think that's important to note at this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Didn't the original agreement say they couldn't close a school without the town's support?
Without a vote for the town. That town.
Yeah. And isn't that pretty much the same thing that Ripton's going through right at the moment?
Yep. I mean, like in Virgin's area, though, they were closing Addison Central. They could close it without a vote. Bristol doesn't have that agreement.
Right, but Bristol's looking at reconfiguring, so they're not calling it a closure. So it's a little bit of workaround to that. From what correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone's here, Kevin, maybe you can speak to that a little bit. And I think another piece is important to mention is that the board and Patrick Green were asked to think outside the box. There's a lot of information that came at them from those meetings, and this, the proposal that came up was let's face it, outside the box. It was not something that that we've seen before. So again, just trying to state some observations that I've made over the time that I was paying attention.
So somebody want to make a motion? It sounds like we're all kind of on the same page, aren't we?
Do we have to make a motion and vote it down, or can we just not act on it?
We could probably not act on it, right, Val?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's not something that it's not something that we need to act on.
You're correct.
Or if we, I mean, it leaves the option for them to come back with an alternative. I would say if we don't act on it, it leaves the option for them to come back with an alternative that might gain support. Whereas if we vote it down, if we make the motion to accept and we vote it down, well, I guess they always have the option to come back with something different.
Right. I mean, but they're not even presenting that there are other options in any way. It's essentially just standing against the proposal that's been made.
I don't like what you're doing, Ian. Let's vote against it.
Yeah.
Basically is what they're saying.
Exactly. Right. Which is sort of a frustrating part about that. And obviously it's a very emotional thing to be going through and to have this information be put out there. But it's, Patrick's proposal is just that. It's a proposal to the board. And so, as Darla said, the board has has extended their sort of discussion about this. The original idea was to have something that the voters of the 5 towns would be looking at tomorrow. But they've pushed that off and have extended that for another 7 months to sort of look at this proposal and to get more community input. So there's a lot more to say on this. And I think, hopefully, we come out more educated at the end of that in terms of what's going to happen. But there's nothing in this letter that leads me to believe that there's any proposal or any concept of alternatives coming yet. I think because it's fairly new.
Okay.
I think actually making a motion to sign on and then voting the motion down would be a clearer, stronger message.
Okay, I move we sign on Lincoln's letter.
In support
Second.
of Lincoln's letter.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, Ian seconded. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You're in favor of,
Wait, I don't know.
the motion was to sign on to support Town of Lincoln.
I
Okay,
was in the bathroom. Couldn't go. Sometimes you don't even go long.
all those opposed say aye, nay, raise your hand, whatever. Okay. Joel, are you voting nay?
There we go.
Okay.
So that was everyone nay, just so I'm clear.
Everyone's nay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion is
Denied.
denied.
Defeated.
Okay.
Defeated. Thank you.
Approval of, what do we have, January 4th, Val?
4th and 8th,
Nay.
and then the 22nd came out this afternoon.
Okay. So January
Good
4th
fourth.
and January 8th, I know Ian and I sent our changes.
Yep.
I sent some changes too.
Okay.
I haven't looked at the last one. Sorry.
I don't think any of us have. So somebody want to make a motion to approve January 4th and January 8th with the changes that were submitted?
So moved.
Okay.
Okay.
Ian moved, somebody second, John, or Peter or Joel seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Wave your hand, whatever. Any opposed? Motion carried. So we'll do February 2nd next meeting.
Yeah.
Authorize account payable warrant, and there's no liquor license. Tasha, you got the warrant? Okay. Let's see, the warrant amount is $20,148.12. Wow, Sharon, that's like nothing.
Hold on.
I'll try to be more expensive next time.
You will. Okay. Select Board Roundtable. Darla, let's start with you.
I do not have anything for this evening.
Speaker?
Ooh, I got something.
Make it
Finally.
It's real simple. There's a tree on just north of Lloyd Dyke's driveway. I don't know if it's Dutch elm disease or if it's that emerald ash borer, but it is completely dead and all the bark is falling off it. And I just think that I haven't remembered it when I spoke to Eric, or I would have just told him, but it needs to come down before it falls in the road.
Is that it?
That's it.
And you're not going
It's
anywhere?
minor, not
You're not going
controversial
anywhere
at
tomorrow?
all.
No? Okay. Ian?
Yes, he is. He's going to the
polls.
The polls and work. 1:45, be there.
You better tell him 12:30 so we can get my 1:45.
Bring your mask.
Yeah.
Ian?
That's not your Halloween mask either, Peter.
I was just going to ask. I didn't realize it was Halloween, but
nothing for me.
Hey, Jolie.
Well, we won't be having a meeting until when? The March 15th again?
Correct.
And I'll let it out of the bag or not. I'd like to personally thank Gail Pellin from the board for his many years of service to the town of Bristol. As voters don't know, Gail, our highwayman, is leaving us to go on his own. In the woods, he loves the woods. He's going to be a logger, and I wish him well. He's been a very good employee, and I just wish him and his family well.
I know.
All I have.
Thank you. That it?
That's it.
Okay. I have nothing.
Going out like crazy, so watch it if you're driving home.
Yeah, we're all driving home.
We should tell voters that we're up on stage.
Town administrators report.
Joel, did you say it's snowing like crazy?
Yeah.
It is.
Oh my.
It's been snowing like crazy since about 4:30ish here.
I do not think I have anything to add to my written report.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay, I see John.
I have a question too.
Okay, John, go ahead.
Oh.
You're muted, John.
Thank you. I don't know. I missed the beginning of the meeting. Unfortunately, I was trying to get here, but I wondered if it would be appropriate to ask a question.
Sure, not too long.
It's not long. And I don't need an answer right away, but first I would notice, it's been hammering snow since we've been meeting, and it's kind of nice to be home. I have to say, as nice as it is to be in Holley Hall, it's absolutely blizzarding outside. But my question is, if and when there's a proposal for a new police station, and that would be incur a bond vote, who gets to vote on that question? And again, I don't need an answer here, but I would love to know.
it's an easy answer. It's the police district, and only the police district.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for all the work you guys do to make the town run all year long. Appreciate it very much. I know a lot of people do.
Thank
John.
you. Okay, other business. Oh, Ian, sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, I had a question. We received the annual Above and Beyond Award letter.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna bring that up.
I can't remember. I know we had some suggestions for last year, but I don't think they did one, right? Because of what happened, or because of what's still happening. So I wonder, do we submit who we submitted the last year again, or if other people had other ideas, or if you'd like to submit thoughts, Val, from us? I don't know how you want to handle that.
I gave Val one suggestion already.
Okay.
Well, we'll be going into an executive session. Sometimes these things are approached so that the nominee isn't aware of it.
Right.
So you might not want to talk about it.
Okay.
We can do that in executive session.
Okay.
Okay. Sally, did you have
Sally.
a question?
Yeah.
Unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question. It reminded me when John mentioned the police building. And also I'm thinking about the town shed building. I don't know what level, what place it's at, but there are, a great opportunity here to make a really environmentally cozy building and save a lot of electricity over time. And also the solar array at the community solar is right there, and that is going to offer an amazing deal on electricity costs too. So it would be worth putting electric into that building as much as possible to take advantage of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
We talked about that, Ian, but can the
Well, yeah, we're doing, I mean, I think any new building, it depends. We're at a stage where we're sort of, it's paused at the moment just to sort of reevaluate the site. That was our main thing that we were looking at. And so the initial proposal had limitations in terms of solar on the building, just because of the way that the buildings were angled. So we're paused now, but yeah, that is one of the things that we're considering, that, and I think it's important that we try to be as close to net zero as we can with any new construction or even refurbishment of buildings, using heat pumps and things like that. And we'll try to be as, obviously there are practicalities with buildings of this size and what happens in terms of the big trucks coming in and out. So we'll try to be as mindful as we can in terms of what systems we might put into the building, but definitely as insulated as possible and things like that.
Yeah. And what I was kind of suggesting too is it might be cheaper, if you were even thinking of solar, is to not really put it on the roof, but to actually just use the community solar that is going to be cheaper because it's a scale.
Right. And we definitely look at that. I mean, by that time we would have numbers for that project in terms of cost per panel, things like that. And then we could start to look at that and factor that in.
Yeah, great.
So Ian, question. I thought when we were talking about that, we couldn't use our Bristol Community Solar for the town because it was individuals. Or is that not the case? We might be able to use the one that's on Cane Hill.
Yeah. Okay, so the Cane Hill one you can't use. That's just going to go directly to GMP, and that's going to offer the whole Vermont grid a much lower cost for electricity, which is great. The solar on the dump it can be for the municipality or residents or churches or businesses. It just seemed like the municipality themselves usually can't just come up with a chunk of money. But since you're building a new building and you are going to be in a project, then it would make more sense that you would factor that into your new building. That's the idea.
Right.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I seem to recall that one reason why there might be a barrier for the garage site is because it's already subscribed to the green solar on Route 116.
Oh, true.
Right. That's part of it. There are a number of meters in the town that are factored in for the off-taking of that electricity, but we'll have to revisit that. And one of the options that we have is that we can move things around within our town, and because we have so many meters in so many locations. So things like the library has potential to be maybe put on and a public works building taken off, so we can take advantage of other ways. So I think there's some wiggle room in terms of moving things around and also getting a handle, given that it's not an all electric building or low electric use, at least in terms of moving towards an all electric building, let's say with heat pumps, we would probably be increasing the electric use there anyway. And so it might push us over, and we would need to be able to join another facility to get the electricity if we wanted to. But I think we'll be looking at all that as well.
Yeah, good points. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ellie.
And just to get a quick update on where that is, at the last meeting with the consultants, the discussion of the environmental findings were there were a lot of questions. The select board had a lot of questions about proceeding with a phase 1 environmental assessment. So I've gotten some of those answers, but given all the attention that we've needed to focus on town meeting preparations, we'll pick that back up probably at the March 15th meeting.
Okay. Anything else under correspondence and business? Okay. We need to go into executive session to discuss personnel, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. And I make a motion, we enter executive session to discuss personnel matters for 1 VSA section 313A3.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand, wave. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. We are now in executive session.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Right.